Good morning everyone and welcome to our first council meeting for 2026. I'd like to begin by paying our respects to the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, the Gidabal people, and also to all traditional owner groups across our broad region, and thank them for their continuing care for country for over 65,000 years. And we pay respects to their leaders past, present and emerging. Unfortunately, the Reverend Lizzie Gaskell, who was going to join us today, is unwell, and she has passed on her message for Councillor Richters to read to us today. So I would ask Councillor Richters to take over.
Thank you. As Mayor said, these are from Lizzie, not from me. My youngest son finished school last year, and while he saves to go overseas, he works and has done for a few years now for a large national purveyor of rapidly delivered cuisine. He works often in the drive-through, and when he first started, I remember him being in awe of the headset. The headset is a pervasive piece of kit in the fast food industry, and my son had been very keen to wear it, but when he put it on, he quickly discovered it wasn't just tuned to the requests of 2 lanes of customers in the drive-through. The headset was overwhelming. Orders and alterations to those orders, instructions from managers, complaints, general chit-chat, and the noise of various alarms that signify orders being filled or the chips being ready. He found himself thoroughly immersed in this fast-paced world, and it was difficult to decipher one noise from another. Every sound had a valid claim on its time and attention, and to ignore any was unthinkable. His mind was swimming when at long last he took the headset off, and early on headaches were routine. My son's headset dilemma reminds me that the volume of our modern society is breathtaking, both the volume in decibels and that in sheer weight of content. So much volume clamouring and competing for our attention. Wealth, power, property, visibility, success, time. Who has it? Who wants it? And who wants more of it? It's consumer driven and brutally in its demands. It's brutal in its demands. How on earth can we get anything meaningful done when we exist with the headset plugged in all the time? My faith perspective leads me to a God who sees us and loves us and who longs for relationship with us. The creation or liturgy poetry in Genesis reminds us God walked with humanity in the garden of the world, and isn't that what humanity longs for? To be seen and understood and loved, to be surrounded by the beauty of nature, and we do live in a beautiful corner of God's green good earth. It's not just tourism or a nice photo op, it's deeply good for us. It's good for us to be unplugged from all those devices, all the stuff, and in the beauty and breadth of the river of these blue and green mountains, all the long brown paddocks, to hear ourselves think, to think ourselves breathe, or to feel ourselves breathe, and maybe to discern that we are loved, that we do matter, that this is all a gift, and how we live it, and how we shape our leadership, how we offer meaningful connections, the gift of seeing, the gift of listening, and the space just to be very simply matters. He's used to it now, the headset, the volume, the demands, and I'm not entirely sure that's a good thing. Surely there are better, kinder, deeper, slower ways to live. So let us pray. Loving God, as we begin this new year, help us discern the noise, the volume, the clamour that drives so much of modern life, and to respond to it with care. Help us tune in to our voice, reminding us that we are loved, that we are seen, that life is a gift, and our call is to share that gift justly and kindly with all in our care. Bless the elected leaders of Southern Downs Regional Council and the staff this year. Lead us to put aside the stuff that doesn't matter, and in the beauty of this place, to learn what does matter and to live and lead well. Amen.
Councillor Richters. Moving on to condolences, I'd like to start with a condolence for Jono Colf's. Many of you would have known Jono, who was larger than life and will be missed by so many people across our community. I'm going to ask the Deputy Mayor to lead the condolence for Jono.
Thank you. I'd like to share my condolences for a very much loved member of our community, Jono Colfs. It's difficult for me to say just how long I had the privilege of knowing Jono. I think it would probably go back to being soon after he moved back to Warwick in 2011, when he worked at Friendly Society, but more so later during his days at the Warwick Daily News. Given that Jono was a very sociable, friendly person and a mate to everyone, it was very easy to get to know him and like him. I'd never heard anyone speak badly of him. Words were always spoken with praise for the person he was and in wonderment at what he could achieve. He had a knack of being able to make people feel like a better person just for having known him, and I'm very grateful for that. The day Jono was diagnosed with cancer was a very bleak day for everyone who had the privilege of knowing him. We all knew, though, that he would not go down without a fight, and fight he did, with bravery, determination, positivity, dignity, and courage beyond belief. His tenacity showed right through to the end. He had so many people fighting the fight with him, with words of encouragement, with prayers, and with support in every way that they could. Jono was just that sort of person. Everyone was in his corner. No one was willing to say goodbye. That was not in anyone's vocabulary. People showed that his fight was not his alone. Jono was a very knowledgeable person, a musician, a great storyteller, and a lover of local history. I remember him telling me once that he gained a love for books when he used to spend a lot of time after school at our Warwick Library. He loved his time there and used that as an opportunity to take him on to bigger things in his adult life. His love of sport and music gave him the opportunity to play his guitar and sing with his band Sleeping Dogs, and to play cricket for Wheatvale. These opportunities connected him with many people while forging long-term friendships. During Jono's time working for SDRC, he organised the Great Australian Bites event 2 years in a row for Australia Day. Council was very fortunate at that time to receive funding to host those events, and there was no better person than Jono to organise those events and turn them into the huge success that they were. People still talk about how great that was, and Jono's name continually comes up in those conversations. His love of history saw him becoming a board member and then an employee at Glengullen Homestead. He took on the role of general manager, and in true Jono style, he worked with enthusiasm and was fully committed to doing everything he needed to do to succeed. Unfortunately, his diagnosis brought that to an abrupt end. Jono Colf's only had a short life, but he made a valuable impact while he was here. He has left a legacy through his character, his stories, his values, and his contribution to the community through sport, music, and history. Unfortunately, on the 27th of December 2025, we learned that Jono did lose his fight against this insidious disease, and his loss has had a domino effect on all those who knew him. We're all still trying to come to terms with not being able to see or talk to him again. It just doesn't seem real for his friends, acquaintances, but particularly for his dad, Elaine, and his brother Joe. As quoted by the Warwick Turf Club, I'll finish with what they had to say was, "Some people leave their mark quietly, others leave it in laughter, music, and moments you never quite forget." And Jono Colf's was that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and there is a memorial for Jono on the 21st of February in Warwick. Moving to Councillor Pigeon, you have a condolence for much beloved Shaz of Albury.
Today I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Sharon Nelson of Albury. For over 30 years, Shaz was a familiar and trusted face around town, delivering the mail on her postie boat. She was part of the daily rhythm of Albury and someone many people look forward to seeing. Through her work, she helped keep our community connected. Sharon will be remembered for her kindness, her reliability, the pride she took in serving Albury. She represented the very best of community spirit, showing up every day and caring quietly but deeply. Our thoughts are with Sharon's family and her loved ones. Her contribution to Albury is something that the town can be proud of, and she will be fondly remembered.
Councillor Pigeon and Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to give condolences to the family of John Ackroyd, who grew up in Warwick and passed away on Sunday in a vehicle accident at the age of 22. It's very tragic to see somebody who has barely lived life for their life to be taken, and for those of us who are friends and for his family who now have to deal with the situation of losing someone so very young and so very precious. John was employed by numerous people. We're in Warwick. The accident occurred in the northern part of Queensland. I send my condolences to his family. He was a lovely young man. His memorial service will be held in the near future and will be advised. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors with condolences today? Councillor Rugby.
I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Grant Matthews, someone you could truly describe as a quiet achiever. For many years, Grant looked after the Soldiers Memorial in Stanthorpe, ensuring it was always clean, tidy and respectfully maintained for all who visited. He was also an extraordinary record keeper, holding a remarkable wealth of information on climate and water in our region, which he was always willing to share. Grant will be greatly missed by his wife Mima, his family and by the many people in our community who knew and valued him.
Thank you, Councillor Warwick. Okay, councillors, moving on to attendance apologies. We have all in attendance. Reading and confirmation of minutes. We have a recommendation that the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on Wednesday, 17 December 2025 be adopted. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Dean, thank you. And a seconder. Councillor Haslett, thank you. All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Actions from council meetings. We have a recommendation that council receive the report. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle and a seconder, Councillor Pidgeon. Are there any questions on that one, councillors? No. All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Declarations of conflicts of interest. Do we have any declarations today? Councillor McDonald, item number
15.1, Mayor.
Councillor Windle,
15.1.
Councillor Bartley,
15.1, Mayor.
anyone else? Okay, Councillor McDonald, would you like to lead off?
Thanks, Mayor. I will volunteer to leave the room for this particular item. A reasonable person may consider that I have bias after negative election material was circulated to the community during the election from a relative of the applicant.
Councillor McDonald, Councillor Windle,
Yeah, I'll be declaring a declarable conflict of interest. As I do not believe I can make an unbiased decision in this matter, I'll be leaving the room for the discussion and vote.
thank you, Councillor Windle. Councillor Bartley,
Thanks. In regards to item 15.1, I will be declaring declarable conflict of interest, given that it may be perceived that I may not be able to make an unbiased decision, given remarks made about me during the recent local government election.
thank you, Councillor Bartley. Okay, moving on to the mayoral minute. I have two mayoral minutes today. The first is that council records the high participation in the corporate plan survey and records its thanks for the engagement of our community and for them sharing what is important to them and their vision for the region. In speaking to the mayoral minute, I would say the corporate plan is our key strategic roadmap. It sets our priorities and guides how we invest ratepayer dollars and shapes our shared vision for the future of the Southern Downs. The community's feedback helps us build a shared vision that reflects who we are, protects what we value, and plans confidently for the future of the Southern Downs. More than 1,500 residents participated in the corporate plan survey, more than double what is expected for a region of our size, and I think that speaks volumes about how engaged our community is and how passionate they are about this region. Does anyone else want to speak to that motion? All in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. The second minute today is that Council records its sincere appreciation to Karina Devine for 20 years of dedicated service to the Warwick Art Gallery and to the arts and our community in the Southern Downs. In speaking to that motion, on the 6th of January, Karina Devine celebrated 20 years as Director of Warwick Art Gallery. Karina has demonstrated unwavering commitment, professionalism and a passion for arts in regional communities, contributing significantly to the success both of the gallery, to Jumpers and Jazz in July, and to the arts generally in the Southern Downs. Over 2 decades, Karina's vision, generosity and tireless advocacy for artists shaped the gallery into a place of creativity, connection and pride for our community. Karina's work contributes to both the economy and the cultural capital of the town she now calls home. Her passion for art is underpinned by a strong belief that it has a role to play in every person's life, even if they are not always aware of it. Her leadership has championed local voices, welcomed national stories and ensured the arts continue to thrive in the Southern Downs. And I want to thank Karina for her 20 years of passion, courage and care. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Councillor Windle.
Thanks, Mayor. Oh, look, I fully support your words. That's great. That's a great background of what Karina has offered and contributed to this community, and we look forward to her continuing in that role for more years to come.
Thank you. All in favour, councillors? That's unanimous. Thank you. We have no notices of motion, and moving on to item 9.1, we have a recommendation that the report of the Chief Executive Officer in relation to correspondence be received. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Pitchin, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor McDonald. Thank you. Does anyone want to speak to that? Councillor McDonald.
Yes, please, Mayor. Just in regards to letter number 1, just to seek some clarification through you from the CEO. The very last point, removing the prohibition on councillors using discretionary funds in the local government election year from January 1 to the conclusion of the election. Can you please explain the implications of this so I have a better understanding and also the public understand what this actually means?
Through you, Mayor. Certainly, councillors. So just by way of background, some councils in Queensland, generally the much larger ones, they're what we call the Tier 1 councils, have a line item within their budget called discretionary funds, or sometimes it's called divisional funds. And during the budget process, councillors may nominate that that particular spending goes to a certain project, either within their portfolio or within their divisional region. I'm mindful that we don't have divisions here, and as I mentioned, it is something that is generally applied to the much larger Tier 1 councils. It's not something that applies to us in our budget process.
Thank you for the explanation.
Any other comments or questions, Councillor Bartley?
I have a question, Madam Mayor. This wouldn't be the only correspondence that goes out. I think the public look at our agendas and think that this is all we've dealt with. I imagine there would be a lot more letters written to the Minister than just these two. And maybe they need to be included so the public can see what we're actually doing.
Thank you for the comment, Councillor Bartley. In fact, most councils do not have correspondence in their order of business anymore because the sheer volume of correspondence, once you particularly include emails, it would mean we would have an agenda paper that was potentially several thousand pages long each month if we included all of the emails to and from the Mayor. What we try to do is include correspondence that is of interest to the community or relevance to the community. But it is something that we can open for discussion when we next review our order of business as to whether it is included or not.
If I may, thank you, Councillor, for the question and the query. I'm also mindful that most of this time period was over the Christmas New Year closure, so that's also why the correspondence may seem lighter, whereas in some other agendas there's been a lot more information.
Councillor Winters?
Can I just further on to Councillor McDonald's question, just for the purposes of the community, have it confirmed we did not include a discretionary fund in our budget, and our councils do not have a discretionary fund.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Councillor all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. We have no petitions and no portfolio reports this month again because of the Christmas break. Moving on to item 12.1, we have a recommendation that Council note the Chief Executive Officer's status report. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor McDonald. Are there any comments or questions on that item? Councillor Bartley.
One, in relation to that, where I think I asked about Hagues Road and whether it would be possible to bring the works forward, and the response is that Hagues Road is not subject to detailed design at this stage. It is not currently within Capital's 2-year works plan, but we do have a budget item in our budget for it of $35,000 for a design. So that's in this financial year. So I would hope we do spend that and do something.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. Anyone else? No? All in favour? That's all except Councillor Bartley. And those against? Councillor Bartley. Moving on to item 12.2, we have a recommendation that Council, in accordance with section 33(1) and 34(3) of the Disaster Management Act 2003 and section 9(1)A and section 10(1) of the Disaster Management Regulation 2014, appoint a Deputy Chairperson to the Southern Downs Local Disaster Management Group, LDMG. As Chair of the LDMG, I'll move that motion. Do I have a seconder for that? It's Windle. Thank you. And I will also move an amendment motion as indicated. We've had yesterday a nomination of a member for the Queensland Ambulance Service, so I will move an amendment motion that after appoint we add a Cullen. And then we have, Councillor Adrienne as Deputy Chair of the Southern Downs Local Disaster Management Group, and Rebecca Whiteley, Officer in Charge, Queensland Ambulance Service, Warwick, as a member of the LDMG. So, are you happy to also second that amendment? Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Opening that up for debate, as you're all aware, Councillor Adrienne has completed her mandatory training for LDMG. She is the councillor representative on the group, and I think that Councillor Adrienne will be a great asset to the LDMG. I would like to thank Councillor McDonald and Councillor Richters for their time and contribution to the LDMG. And to reiterate that the role of the LDMG Chair and Deputy is one of governance. We do not coordinate disaster response, that is for the local disaster coordinator, and we do not make decisions on coordination or operational matters, that is voted on by the members of the LDMG. Our role is to provide governance and a framework that not only ensures a best practice model for disaster response, but which protects ratepayers from claims against Council. We have made great strides in getting our LDMG membership appointed in December, and this additional one is nominated today from the ambulance service. And we have also made great strides in getting our deputy member appointments in place. I feel our LDMG is now in a good position and ensures we are discharging our governance role. Would anyone like to speak against that motion? Would anyone like to speak for the motion?
I would just like to reiterate what you have just said in thanking Councillor McDonald and Councillor Richters for their time on the LDMG in that Deputy Chair role. I feel it's very important for our council to have as many people on that board as we can, particularly in times of disaster, because we'll need to step up, and I just look forward to doing the best job I can in that role.
Are we happy to go to a vote on the amendment motion? All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. And then going back to the original motion as amended, does anyone want to speak to that, or are we happy to go to a vote? All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 13.1. We have a recommendation that Council receive and note the financial performance report as at 31 December 2025. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Haslett, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Renewal, thank you. Okay. Are there any questions on that report? Councillor
Just got
Cullen.
one question. Under spent and committed, can I just get some clarification that the definition is still the same as it was 12 months ago? The word committed is,
In terms of the capital?
no, just the word committed. Are we still using the same numeration to add that committed?
Yes, we are.
No worries.
Does anyone want to speak to the report? Does anyone? Councillor McDonald.
Mayor, I'd just like to say it's really good to see, by comparison to last year, where we are at 62.2% of having spent and committed funds at this point. So I'm feeling as though we're in a far better position than where we were this time last year. That's great.
Councillor McDonald. Councillor Richards.
Question, Mayor. The expenses talk about TMR work. Can we be told what the TMR works were?
Through you, Mayor, and thanks for the question, Councillor. The TMR works are part of our RMPC works that we undertake for the DTMR, which is included in our capital, and we also get revenue and costs back from DTMR that covers those costs.
Just for clarification, that's where we are contracted by TMR to undertake their repairs and maintenance work on their network.
Correct.
So I'm guessing that means that we have done more repairs and maintenance than what we had envisaged originally of doing?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, Council, that's correct. With the flood and the XTC last year, there was more damage to the DTMR network, so our RMPC contract rose up with the increased scope of work.
And we will get that back as flood recovery money?
Yes, and through the Mayor, absolutely. Yeah, everything that we do for DTMR is fully recoverable under the RMPC contract.
So, sorry, and so that means that that overspend actually will turn into a balance sheet eventually when we get the money back from the state government.
Through your Mayor, absolutely. It's output out and revenue in.
Yeah, thanks.
I might ask a follow-up question on that from Councillor Richards, because I think we also get paid, we are not responsible for the slashing on DTMR roads, and we do undertake that work as well as repairs and maintenance, don't we? But the responsibility for slashing on state roads is with DTMR.
Yep, that's correct.
Any other questions, councillors? I think I also, like Councillor McDonald, had noted that we're continuing to do well on that delivery of the capital budget, which is really good to see the focus this year. And I also think I found it really encouraging that with our new General Manager Corporate in place and looking over things that I think depreciation is a large challenge for us, and having a very close eye on what we're depreciating and why and how that gets dealt with in an accounting perspective actually does make a big difference for ratepayers. So I'd like to thank the staff for starting to look into our depreciation with a little bit more of an analytical point of view. All those in favour of that recommendation? It's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to our operational plan, we have a recommendation that Council receive and note the second quarter update of the 2025-26 operational plan. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Dean, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Pigeon, thank you. Do we have any questions just start on that, Councillor
So
Bartley.
much a question through you, Mayor. More a comment, and I looked at our local laws has been deferred until the next financial year. I do hope we do undertake that arduous task in the next financial year, because it seems to have been put off for such a long time. This council hasn't undertaken it yet, the previous one didn't, and probably about 3 or 4 before them, because we've got local laws going back into the last century, which is 1993, when the first amalgamation occurred. They still talk about Warwickshire Council. One that springs to mind is our Pest Management Act, the bylaws that govern, that we operate under for pest management. There's no reference to biosecurity, which now is a huge consideration. And when we, I imagine, review the bylaws, we'll take all that into account. That probably contributes to being such an enormous task, but I'm very committed as a council to make sure that we do undertake the task that other councils before us have seen it as too hard to do, or just a bigger task that they can manage. So it's a comment that I do hope, as much as we've cancelled or deferred it now, that we do undertake it in the next financial year.
Thank you, Councillor Bartley. I mean, there was a question of the deferral. I might just ask the CEO
Yes.
for an update on.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Bartley, for making that point. Very important piece of work. I can note 2 things. First of all, that this report is current up until December 30. It applies for the second quarter of last year. Since then, and from further discussions with councillors in January, our governance team have gone back to the state government and are looking at what we call the model procedure, which is a procedure that sits across most of Queensland councils, and we are looking at bringing that piece of work forward back into this financial year, and by doing that, that will update our local laws in a more consistent and timely manner, and will also bring us in line with most of the other councils in Queensland.
Thank you.
Councillor, I'll go to Councillor Watling first because he had his hand up first, and then I'll come to Councillor McDonald. Yes, your question.
Mayor, I just, if you go down to the performance overview there, that chart equals 108%. There might be a reason, but it actually equals 108% there, and even the half percentages there.
Yeah, you're right. That is correct, Councillor.
Sounds the Dean to take on this.
You take that as
Yeah.
and
No, that's right, yeah.
the right information.
Thank you, Councillor Watling. Councillor McDonald.
Further to Councillor Bartley's question, in regards to local laws, through you, Mayor, to the CEO, could you possibly give us an indication of how many, just so that we realise and the community realises how big the workload is, how many local laws are out there that need to be considered and obviously updated? Do we have some idea of that?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Over 100.
Over 100. That is a mammoth task. I bet you don't look forward to it. I have a couple of other questions, Mayor, if that's okay. Through the CEO, just in regards to the operational plan, when we go to our places, number 3, investigate options to manage sale yard effluent. I had the privilege in the last term of actually looking at 5 different sale yards in Varel, Casino, Tamworth, Dalby, Roma, and they certainly have extensive systems, and I know that we don't, and I know that we're obviously in the progress of fixing this issue as such. So could we possibly have a briefing from the GM in regards to how we are going about addressing that issue for the sale yards?
Through the Mayor. Thanks for the question, Councillor. Yes, we were also very disappointed when no one responded to our RFQ, because we did a fair bit of work actually to try and get people to be on the list to respond to it. The reason being was that they were overwhelmed with work, and we're finding that across all the water and sewage at the moment. We don't get a huge amount of people bidding on either our design work or our construction work. So how we're addressing that is probably the most important thing. So we're going back out to market, and we're also engaging with a whole range of specialists who work in that space, and I think some of them have done the sale yards that you mentioned on your tour in the last term. And we're also engaging more broadly with the what we call our drinking water specialists in the region as well, because not only us but other councils in Western Queensland are suffering from a bit of a lack of support from consultants and contractors, and we're trying to, through the QRAP and through industry organisations, get greater people submitting prices on our works. So we're confident that we'll have some more submissions on that particular project because it's needed.
Thank you very much. And through you, Mayor, to the CEO, just in regards to the roof on the sale yards, obviously that's a very expensive project. How are we going at looking for additional funding for that to progress forward?
It was brought up in discussion with the local government minister at the last meeting, which was early December. It's something the state government's very aware of, so it's supporting us.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
I might add to that too. We have been advocating both at federal and state level when we meet relevant agricultural ministers and ministers like local government and the Deputy Premier, that it is high on our list and it's really important for producers of this region. So we are definitely looking at both levels of government and we'll continue to see whether there are opportunities for funding.
Thanks, Mayor.
Councillor Adrienne.
Can I just add to the sale yard, sorry, Councillor Richards. It's just good to see that this is continuing to move along. I know that there's a lot of things that are still to be done with the sale yards, but the work that the staff are doing on all levels, it's impressive to see that it hasn't just fallen off. It is growing and it is moving along, so thank you.
Councillor Richards.
In regards to item 12, can I just get an update on, can we get an update on the progress of the Warwick pipeline?
Yeah, sorry, can I just, Councillor Richards, can I just actually mention to staff that the numbering repeats for each different category, which is not helpful when we're all trying to refer to it. So maybe as we go forward, we could have 1 point something and 2 point something, but which category are you
point
in?
12 on
In our plate?
yeah, whatever page that is, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Three
in the
pages
our
down?
places number
Our places.
12
Full page,
on the
5 pages down?
Warwick, yeah.
Look at the right inside.
Okay.
Through the Mayor, thanks for the question, Councillor. I'm currently working with the Department and SEQ Water on the timing for the Warwick pipeline to us. The initial costs are way over budget, so I think the government's going through a rethink on the actual timing of the pipeline. But as we know more information, we'll keep you updated. So we're in, I've got a PIC meeting, which is our control board meeting on Monday, so I'll probably get a further update, and as we get further correspondence from the department about the timing, we'll keep the council informed through the CEO.
Can you confirm if any construction's actually started yet?
Through the Mayor, no construction has started. They're still doing the actual EPBC approvals through the Environment Department. As you're probably aware, there were some recent changes last year to the environment legislation, and that's put a few more hurdles in their way to get their final approval.
And I understand they're still negotiating easements along the route as well.
That's correct, Mayor.
Question here, under our prosperity, number 1, collaborate with external stakeholders to develop innovative solutions to ease the need for affordable housing. I'm just curious to know whether we've had any further updates from any of the stakeholders to see whether there's any progress coming ahead in the future on those, and how we're going with the strategic land use.
Thank you, through Mayor. Yes, there is an update, and my apologies, that was an email I can't remember. So can I come back to council with that update regarding the affordable housing project? In terms of the much larger piece of work, which is around available land and how that is brought to market, that's one of the strategic priorities for the organisation this year. The ELT has actually met yesterday to start that piece of work.
Thank you.
Good stuff. I think number 11, 3.3.1, which doesn't mean very much, but under the Community Greens program has had a further 13 successful applications with 3 currently being processed. Our ADF program has 2 successful applications. Is it okay if we get a copy of that, of who's been successful? Yep, no worries. Can I just ask one more, please? Is any of these that we can get updates along the way? Any of these? The one below it there, implement the Southern Downs Regional Council Economic Development Strategy as it goes. Do we get an update on them at all? Yep. Okay, thank you.
Any other councillors? I think I actually want to thank all the staff involved in developing the actual operational plan this year and making the reporting on the plan. Actually, I found it a lot more transparent, not just for us but also for the community. The action items are much more concrete than in the previous year, and therefore it's much easier to measure progress and whether they have been achieved. And I think, subject to Councillor Wantling's observation on the percentages in that pie chart, I actually think the pie chart itself is a really good addition and shows us how we're tracking on progress for that. On some specific items, I wanted to take the opportunity in our people, item 3. The delivery of the Australia Day event by staff on Monday was so well done, and I wanted to give a big thank you to all of the staff who were involved in delivering that citizenship ceremony and the Citizen of the Year event. We had a really big turnout, and listening to 300 people singing the national anthem inside Alora Hall was truly something really moving. So it was a great event, and I wanted to thank the staff for that. It's a lot of work. Item 4, public toilets. I know they're never top of anyone's list, but they're essential for our community when they're using our parks and facilities, as well as tourists and visitors to the region. And I'm really glad we're progressing the audit so that we can properly consider this when we get to the next year's budget. And the same in item 10 in relation to an audit of our facilities generally. Many of them are suffering from a lack of investment and a proper maintenance schedule. And these are the community's assets that we're charged in looking after. So I'm really glad to see that that audit is now on the list and progressing so that we can discuss the findings in the budget process. Item 6, as Councillor McDonald and Councillor Pigeon have mentioned, I'm really happy with the progress the sale yards have been making. I think it's going from strength to strength, and it's good to see that those special sales are increasing. It's a great asset for the region and our producers, and it's well worth the investment. I also wanted to, in our prosperity, item 5, which is all the work that's been done from a HR perspective in the organisation, I wanted to congratulate the executive leadership team and the senior leadership team for what is a huge body of work that they have been working through this year. And also getting over 100 responses from staff to the wellness survey, I think is a great indication that staff now feel that they're being listened to and they want to participate in those surveys. So I think that's a really great indicator for us as councillors as to how that's going. If we move to a vote on that, all in favour?
Sorry, may I have one more question? About the, this is our performance 6, 4.1.2, about the technology one. It says there that the request management module has been signed off and is due for implementation in March 2026. Can I just confirm that is the customer complaint feedback module, is it?
Yes, it is.
Excellent, excellent, thank you.
Moving to a vote, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 13.3, we have a recommendation that Council apply the exception in section 2361C of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to the disposal of the interest in the land identified in attachment 1, which is the 7 tenure items and that we approve the renewal of the tenure agreements in attachment 1 in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, whilst adhering to the Council lease policy, the Land Title Practice Manual and the Land Act 1994, and grant delegated authority to the Chief Executive Officer and Delegated Officer to negotiate and complete any documents and dealings necessary to implement Council's decision to renew the tenure arrangements in attachment 1. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor McDonald, thank you. Does anyone do you want to speak for the motion?
Through you, Mayor, just to say that it's great to see these leases put in place, and it gives these organisations some security for the future. So I'm sure that they're very happy with the outcome.
Does anyone want to speak again? Oh, is there a question?
Just a question,
Yeah.
Is there by chance that councillors can have a pre-issue review of any material changes on their leases, that they can come back to us, or do they come back to us?
Yeah, that occurs at CIS briefings, Councillor.
Yeah, so they definitely will come back.
Come back to briefings.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone want to speak against the motion? Does anyone else want to speak for the motion? Those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. Item 13.4, we have a recommendation that Council resolve pursuant to section 2361B of the Local Government Regulation 2012 that an exception applies to the proposed disposal of the interest in the land legally described as Lot 46 on ML 1315 and Lot 47 on W 134623, as it is for the purpose of a lease to a community organisation, and endorse the tenure agreement for 10 years to Warwick Cowboys Junior Rugby League over Lot 46 on ML 1315 and Lot 47 on W 134623 in accordance with the Local Government Regulation 2012, whilst adhering to the Council tenure policy, the Land Title Practice Manual and the Land Act 1994, and grant delegated authority to the Chief Executive Officer and Delegated Officer to negotiate and finalise any documents and dealings necessary relating to this matter to implement Council's decision to renew the tenure agreement. Councillor Watling, are you happy to move this one as the person who has been working on this? Thank you. And do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Okay, do you want to speak for the motion? Councillor Watling, or do you have a question
I just
first?
have a question first, same thing. Again, the final tenure document, will that come to council before it's executed and finalised?
No, motion does go.
This is your decision, Councillor.
Okay. I will speak to it if you like.
Yes.
Yeah. I just think it's fantastic that we've came to a resolution finally. It's been a long time, and I know Dean's put a lot of work in there trying to get this finalised, so yeah, great work, Dean. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Watling. Does anyone want to speak against the motion? No. Councillor Bartley, you want to speak for the motion
Thank
as
you,
well?
Mayor. I think it's been a long time coming. It's been a protracted effort from all sides to get this put in place. I know the community will feel a lot more comfortable, particularly those who had a great deal of interest and history, as Councillor Windle does, and for families that played for those football clubs, that this is continuing on, that lease is available for them. It means growing our sport, and that's what we need to do, keep our young people fit, and we have the facilities, we need to keep those facilities in those right for sporting bodies.
Just wanted to add another comment there, and thanks Councillor Bartley, well said. I'm just really happy to see that the lease will include a condition regarding the completion of the sublease with the Warwick Touch Association. So it's good to know that they will have a home there as well. Thank you for everybody involved.
Councillor Rinters.
I'd just like to also mention that I think it's fantastic that they've come to the resolution that they have. I wish the Junior Cowboys all the success in the future, and I'm looking forward to and thankful for the fact that they're going to continue the traditions of collegians and eastern suburbs as well in their new club. So.
Councillor Rinters. I'd like to particularly thank the staff for the hard work to get this to us in January. It was actually originally slated for February, and knowing how important it is for the clubs, I'm really appreciative of the staff actually pushing that through and doing the extra work to get that to us at this meeting. recognising how important it is for the community and the clubs, I think is really appreciated. And I also want to say it's a really great example of how councillors and the executive leadership team can work well together. Councillor Wantling bringing this to our General Manager Corporate, escalating and made it easier to manage, and I think was integral in getting it sorted. So thank you, Councillor Wantling, for escalating that to the General Manager. I think it's a way where we can actually let the executive know what's important to the community and their concerns, but also then hand it over to them to lean on their extensive knowledge and skills in actually getting the issue sorted out. So I think it's a really good example of how we as council can work as a team with the executive leadership to deliver for community groups. And like Councillor Windle, I'm really glad to see that we've done it in a way to bring Warwick Touch along as well, and that they're going to be looked after in the arrangement, and I think that's a really great result. Any other councillors going to a vote on that? All in favour? Unanimous, thank you. Moving on to item 15.1, I think we have 3 councillors leaving the room. Councillors, we have a recommendation that Council refuse the change application made in relation to the development permit dated 16 September 2025 for reconfiguring a lot for the purposes of subdivision, 1 lot into 18 lots on land at 7 Cullen Street, Warwick, described as lot 75W3029. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Richters, thank you, and a seconder. Councillor Haslett, thank you. Do you want to speak to the motion, Councillor?
Yeah, all I'm going to say to this is, firstly, I thank John for recently coming in to speak with us. I think it was one of our sisters, and I appreciate the reason why this change application has been made. But in me making my decision today, I stick to the purpose of our walkability plan and the state government's policies around livable communities. For me, and I know for many other people in our community, it is desperately important that our new suburbs and the new places for people to make homes in our region are fit for purpose for the next generation, not the previous. And more and more people now choose to walk or ride or scooter or whatever they choose to use as their form of transport, but it's not just the basic, I have a house and a garage and a car. There's so much more diversity in how people live their lives these days. Not to mention also that it's really important that our communities are available to people with a disability, and that the people who live with a disability don't feel disadvantaged about where they choose to live and how they choose to live. So I think it's really important that where we have large developments like this, and there's many others of this example across our region right now, it's really important that we stick to the plan of making our communities livable, walkable and accessible, and that's why I'm going to be supporting the recommendation today.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Does anyone want to speak against the motion?
I just,
Do you have a,
after one part of it, I'm against. Yeah, so,
okay,
but I'm for it.
right.
That makes sense, yeah,
I think I know where you're going with that, Councillor Wantling. Would you like to speak now? Yeah.
I agree with Councillor Richters, but condition 18, 2 metres of concrete on a footpath is probably, for my own opinion, a bit of overkill. 1.5 is usually sufficient, especially in light trafficked areas. I agree in heavy trafficked areas to use the 2 metres, but I just feel, 1.5 is more than sufficient. It's just the aesthetics of it, of that concrete, just takes away what the area is, so.
Councillor Watling, does anyone else want to speak? Motion, Councillor Dean.
Thank you. I'll be supporting the staff's recommendation today because I believe it represents good planning practice. It helps create community that is accessible, functional and supportive of healthy lifestyle. As we look to the future, we need to ensure that residents of Warwick now and for generations to come are able to safely and comfortably use our infrastructure. Not all residents, like Councillor Ritters was mentioning before, have access to a car, or not all residents have able bodies. Our infrastructure must reflect that reality and support everyone in our community. I'd like to thank John for starting the construction because I believe that it is reasonable to ask that from developers, and I want to thank him for continuing that and to strengthen our community's infrastructure for generations to come.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Anyone else? Councillor Watling.
I reiterate everything that's been said in the room so far. However, I would just like to say that when we're planning for the future of this region, and that for me is upfront in making my decision today. However, we also need the growth. So while we're thinking about growing, we need to grow for the future. We need to be thinking not of now, but 10, 15 years down the track, what is this going to look like for our region? And I believe livability is going to be the major key to that. So I will be supporting the staff recommendation today.
I've got nothing further to add. I'm just, I think you've all said it very well. Yeah.
And I'll speak for the motion as well. Yes, you've all expressed it very well about planning for the future and the livability of the region. And I think we are continually being asked by all of our communities for more footpaths and better footpaths. And I think even if we're looking at simply today, we have pressure on us to deliver that, and to waive a requirement would go against everything that we have been hearing from our community. I also think for me what was important is I'm reluctant to agree to a change when it's going to, when that change would result in much higher infrastructure charges to the developer. I think actually it's in the developer's interest in this case to go with the staff recommendation and leave the infrastructure charges as originally decided. Do you want to write a reply, Councillor Richters, or are you happy?
No, Mayor, I take Councillor Watling's point, and I wouldn't be opposed to an amendment if Councillor Watling wanted to move one, because I'm not attached to the width of the path. I'm attached to the fact that the path has to exist. And I can probably see an argument that a smaller path in that there's not a huge number of houses in there. We're not talking about 400 houses, so I'm not stuck to that. But what I am stuck to is making sure that people who need the ability to walk around our communities on safe and stable surfaces have that ability to do so.
So could I move an amendment that
You can move an amendment.
change that to 1.5 metres?
So the amendment would be Councillor Watling.
Yeah, just we change that. I think it's that condition analysis on 18 says 1.5 metre concrete pedestrian footpath instead of the 2 metres.
Yeah. You just don't have the original condition 8. Is it condition 18?
Yes.
Yeah. Be amended to
I do.
1.5 metres. 1.5.
5 metre width. 1.5 metre wide concrete pedestrian footpath is the language.
footpath?
Yes. Pedestrian.
Okay, so councillor Watling are you happy with that wording, councillor Watling? Yes, and do we have a seconder for, I think councillor Richter's you indicated.
I'd be happy to second it.
Second. Do we have questions from councillor Pigeon and then councillor Dean? Councillor Pigeon.
Thank you, through the mayor. I would just like to ask the staff why the recommendation of 2 metres was recommended, please.
Through the
Through you, Mayor, I might just talk first and then I'll get my learned planning colleague talk after. The reason that 2 metres is recommended is nowadays the modern style standard is for both pedestrian and also cycle. The 1.5 has had issues where pedestrians and cycles can collide and accident. There's also people using scooters now on footpaths more, I with the kids as well. The second issue is the 2 metres brings it out to the width that actually will provide better maintenance. So remember the unsightly grass that grows if you have the 1.5 metre on the sides. The 2 metres actually just provides a greater maintenance finish in those areas as well. But the fundamental reason is the pedestrian and cycle intermixing.
And councillor Dean, your question?
I believe he's already started the construction of the footpath. Is that at 2 metres? Yes. Okay. And my other one question, if I may. Will amending this condition and trigger an increase in infrastructure charge? Will he be, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, through you, Mayor. Yes, that's the change that is foreshadowed in the report. If we make any amendments to the conditions, then the current infrastructure charges those council needs to be amended.
But won't that cost, sorry, through you, Mayor, won't that cost sort of weigh itself out because less concrete in the 1.5 metres than cost to the developer?
The increase in the
Charges compared to
the increase in the charges are almost $200,000
to change that
to
from
change that
1.5
condition.
to 2 metres.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
But your question is about what the approximate cost difference is, 1.5 to 2.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if staff can
I need
advise
to
on
take that on
yeah.
notice too.
So do we
The
have any?
changes in the infrastructure charges though are on page 78 of the report, councillor Watling.
Councillor Husford and then Councillor Richards.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. The General Manager's mentioned potential collisions between cyclists and e-scooters and things like that. I'm just not quite clear, but I have seen or read in the news recently where electronic mobility devices require a licence. Do they also require a speed limit on, like, will it become a thing as we go down the path of having more and more of these kinds of ways of getting around, that we will start to see speed limits on footpaths of certain widths and that kind of thing? Is that a reality that's going to come in the future with more and more of these?
Through you, Mayor. Thanks for the question, Councillor. Yes, there's already a speed limit for scooters and mobility devices on footpaths with the Queensland Police. I can't remember exactly what it is, but there is a set speed limit already in place.
So following on then, is the speed limit different for the 2 metre as opposed to a 1.5 metre footpath then? Or
Through
would
you,
it
Mayor.
be the
No,
same?
no, it's not. No.
Same.
And the width is basically to allow pedestrians and cyclists or scooter riders to coexist on the same footpath. And 2 metres under the Queensland standards is the bare minimum.
Thank you.
I do not want to incur a $200,000 change to a developer if that's the cost to it, of a change in application.
Councillor Watling, I'd like to thank you for moving the motion to allow the discussion to happen around the room and to provide the transparency in the debate. I would speak against the amendment motion principally on the infrastructure charge side, but also I think we do need to be really clear about not having different widths all over the district and having an overall view that what we're aiming to do is link up all of these footpaths and have them all consistent. So my preference is that we have one consistent requirement, as the General Manager has said, across Queensland, that is at the 2 metre zone, and that we stick with that so that we are creating a system that is able to be easily linked. So I would be against the amendment motion. Does anyone else want to? Councillor Dean, do you want to speak?
Yeah, I would also like to speak against it only because I believe that our footpaths are getting used more and more.
Yeah.
And I think the safety of our community needs to also be in that consideration. But I do appreciate the sentiment behind it in trying to save money, but I don't know if that would be the case as well.
So I would like to withdraw that amendment, please. Can I do that?
You can withdraw it, but the other thing we could do, actually, Councillor Watling, is you can vote against it. So we might put it to the vote, and you are open to vote against it. It's an easier process to withdraw it. We have to have a resolution to withdraw it, so I might just put it to the vote. Does anyone else want to speak to that? No? Okay, so those in favour of the amendment motion? No one, and those against? Unanimous. But as I said, thank you for moving it. It provided some really good discussion, Councillor Watling. So, and then we are back at the original motion that we refuse the change application. So if we go to the vote on that, all in favour? That's unanimous as well. Thank you. Could someone please ask the councillors to return? Just ask councillors, we'll do item 15.2. Does anyone, just to ask, does anyone want an adjournment after 15.2 before we go into financial? Sorry. Yes, we'll do an adjournment after 15.2 and then we'll reconvene for the confidential. Okay, item 15.2. We have a recommendation that Council receive the minutes of the Pest Management Advisory Committee meeting held in Warwick on Thursday, 18 December 2025. Councillor Pitcher, will you move? Thank you. And Councillor McDonald, you second? Yes, thank you. Do you want to speak for the motion?
Yes, thank you. The Pest Management Group has been growing from strength to strength, and it's a space that I get excited about because it's a major problem across our region, and I know there's still a lot of work to be done within this area. However, the recognition within the council that this is something that we need to work with landholders on is a very exciting space, and the presenters that we're having at those meetings and the knowledge that's being brought forward is second to none. And the presentation we had from the wild dog sector at that meeting was brilliant, and I look forward to bringing these strategies not only to a meeting but actually implementing them into the region, and that is something that I'm extremely passionate about, that we will grow particularly within this next 12 months. And I'd just like to say thank you to all the staff that have been involved in that and coordinating. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pitcher. Councillor McDonald.
Yes, Mayor. It's excellent to see, in particular, you can see in the northern region the statistics that there was 2,020 dog baits distributed and 289. So we've got pig baits. We do have major issues within this region with ferals, and it is wonderful to see that this committee is so dedicated to actually working on the issue. As a landholder, I can speak personally. My herd over the last week has been moving in strange directions. I found out from my manager last week it was because I had 7 wild dogs were rounding up my cattle and chasing calves. So that tells you, if you can see 7, they say if everyone you see, there's another 7 in the bush. So that starts to give you some idea of how devastating Those numbers are growing, the same as pigs as well, and obviously deer. So the ferals within this region are a very serious problem, and we need to keep on top of it as best we can. So I commend those that are involved with the baiting programs, and in particular those farmers that are working collaboratively together to actually achieve outcomes. And that means not single pockets of properties, that means groups working together within regions to actually try and isolate and destroy the problems. So thank you very much, Mayor.
Councillor McDonald, does anyone else want to speak to that motion?
I'd just like to congratulate Councillor Pigeon for her passion in this field, and also I just note that whilst there were quite a few people in attendance at that meeting, there still was an awful lot that were apologies. Does that have an impact on any outcomes, that some of those people that I read there that I would feel that they would have something to contribute? Does that make it difficult?
It's the amount of work that's actually going on behind the scenes at the meetings, the collaboration across all groups is something that is strengthening between every meeting, and it's so exciting to see because it's not just a meeting and forget. It's a collaborated effect that's really starting to pull together, and once we really get that collaboration going across the teams, then moving out to the growers and to the agricultural industries is the next step, and that's where I believe we will really start to get momentum. I really encourage all of the citizens to use the Feral Scan app because it's so important to all of us moving forward to get that data, and I can't stress that enough, that data is where we can really gain momentum through funding from a state and federal level. And so I just encourage everyone to be using that app for us to keep moving forward.
Thank you. Going to a vote on that, all in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. And I will now move an adjournment motion. Councillor Dean, all in favour? Thank you. Okay, welcome back, and we have a recommendation that the meeting be closed to the public and move into committee to discuss the following items, which are considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, which permits the meeting to be closed to the public for business relating to the following as indicated. Reason for confidentiality. This item is considered confidential in accordance with section 254J3B of the Local Government Regulation 2012 as it contains information relating to industrial matters affecting employees. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Windle, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor McDonald. Those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. We Okay, councillors, we have a recommendation that council appoint myself, Deputy Mayor Cheryl Windle and Councillor Sarah Dean to the Performance Review Committee for the Chief Executive Officer for Southern Downs Regional Council. I will move that. Deputy Mayor will take a second. Putting that to the vote, all in favour? That's everyone except Councillor Bartley, and those against? Councillor Bartley, thank you. Okay, that's our last item of business, so I declare the meeting closed at 10:31 a.m.